and Spinney. In 1984, he came to Louisiana in 1984 en route to the Amazon. So after living in the basin swamps for about 4 months with a bow and an arrow and anything else, the dude and a spear. So it's like a documentary. He just went into he was preparing. You were preparing for the Amazon and to help, tree cuttings in the Amazon, and then you came to the basin to acclimate yourself and stayed because he loved it. He loved being in the basin. He loved everything about it and didn't leave, which I think is kind of incredible. So you stayed in the basin to work as a commercial fisherman before forming Basinkeeper in 2004. We are a member of the Waterkeeper Alliance, so if you want to know who we're umbrellaed under, it's Waterkeeper Alliance. Feel free to also check them out as well. Dean's passion for the basin is evident to all that know him. That's absolutely true. Anybody that knows him knows that he eats, sleeps, breathes the basin. His love for it. It's very evident. He's not out patrolling or educating communities about the basin and its many threats and treasures. He works with his family business. They do ecotourism, lost wilderness swamp tours. I've personally been on, and it's the most fantastic tour you will ever be on. You'll be informed and knowledgeable about what's going on in the basin. Taking tours like that are really very much appreciated. All right, and then we'll go ahead and get started with this presentation. But if you are interested in becoming a member, I've got the QR code. I'll put it up later on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Where do you want me?
Wherever you want to be.
Right here?
That works. That's perfect.
So with a lot of things going on. There's some work.
Your clicker working?
Well, it had to be, you have to put it like
If I
slideshow.
if I make it to slideshow, you don't really see the whole thing.
I can do that with it if you want to.
Otherwise, it'll bleed over the edges.
Okay.
That's kind of as good as it gets.
Okay. I'll do it. So the Atchafalaya Basin is important for many different reasons. Our culture. It's the last bastion of vacation culture. People will making a living off of the land in the Atchafalaya Basin.
I'm trying to get the top where we can see the top too.
Migratory birds, I don't know, these most of the migratory birds that come from the tropics, tropical migrants, come actually from the coast of Louisiana. So that's the most important ecosystem for the birds that we have in the Western Hemisphere. But a lot of people don't care about the cypress trees, about the beauty. One guy told me one time that for him, beauty was a felpa. So beauty is beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. So, like one thing everybody have in common is flooding. Everybody worry about flooding music. So we're gonna talk about the importance of the Atchafalaya Basin for flood protection. And the first thing we need to understand is flood capacity, the capacity of land to absorb floods. So we're gonna go back in time. Before Europeans, you can see that the Mississippi River from Missouri all the way to the coast used to flood every year. The Mississippi River used to flood 24 million acres of water. So what it means for us, when we have a big flood in the Ohio Valley, so when we go to the Mississippi River, it will spread out 24 million acres, big flood capacity. For you to understand how much flood capacity that was, how it affected the river, the first levee of the Mississippi River, was built by the French. It was 3 foot high to protect the city of New Orleans. Today the levee is 20 foot high and it still cannot protect the city of New Orleans. That's how much more water we get than the Mississippi, because everything else here is called farmland, so, you know, you cannot flood it anymore. So the only way we can safely live in South Central Louisiana is by building spillways. Before, you know, to be able to divert the water away from the Mississippi River, before build the spillways. Actually, the levees by themselves, they cannot be built high enough to protect us from flooding all the time, you know. More years it works, without major flood, they won't work too much. So they built two. One is the Bonafide Spillway, that protects everything from here to New Orleans, down south, and then to the this spillway all the way to Baton Rouge. We have over 200 industrial plants. They need to be protected. The whole river is a port. It's called the Port of South Louisiana by tonnage. And if you Google it, put by tonnage. Because if not, they won't show us the biggest. But tonnage is the largest in the Western Hemisphere. They will have Baton Rouge and all the cities and towns and all the way to New Orleans. So to protect that section of the river, they built a second spillway, the Morganza Spillway. So the Atchafalaya River goes to the Mississippi River, into the Gulf. They made a spillway out of this basin. This is the way they did it. They put levees, because once they divert the water through the Atchafalaya Basin, they had to keep the water contained within the basin. So we put the levee systems like 15 to 18 miles apart. They cut the surface of the Atchafalaya Basin by less than half of what it used to be. That's why it said how huge impacts to the Atchafalaya Basin. On top of that is the way they did it. They made it worse, because instead of following the contours of the waterways, whatever wasn't the way they cut it into lakes, rivers, valleys, cut it into. They really didn't care about the hydrology or the ecology of the basin. That never changed. They still don't care. That's another story. I'm not to show you right now. So, there's the levee system. So now the basin was designed to pass 1,500,000 cubic feet per second of Mississippi water in a major flood. That's the project flood, the biggest flood that they can predict, you know, which right now that was predicted in the done in the 1950s. Things got way worse. Because of climate change, we have heavy rains, the sea level is rising, so they need to reassess again what would be the project flow. But anyway, they were designed for that. By 1982, the basin had flowed so much. You can see farmland here, you can see the deltas from everywhere, the bottom of our forests and the big swamps right here, the pockets here, you know. See how this is the LiDAR, white is the higher ground, red next, and so on, the greens, then the light green. You can see the basin filling in. How much it fill in? In 1982, they did an assessment. The basin only could pass 57% of the project. Since 1982, it cannot pass the flood limit. So, really big trouble. And it got way, way worse since 1980. So, now I'm gonna try to show you what will happen when the levees fail. And the best way to show you that is to go to the Great Flood in 1927, before the levees were built. Now realize, I'm going to show you these images so you can see what flooded in 1927. So now realize that the project flood will be almost 30% larger than that. Realize also that the levees break on the west side of the basin. On the west side of the basin, that means that the levees from the east side will contain the water for spreading to the east, meaning everything is going to come to the west. The same thing if it breaks from the east side, everything is going to go to the east. So when that flood happens, it's going to be way worse than what I'm going to show you. So another thing, much of the floodplain, looking here. The floodplain, it flooded. Today it's all farmland. All that flooded in 1927, meaning that it's more likely we're not getting more water coming to the Atchafalaya Basin than we did in 1927. So let's come here to San Luis and Lafayette. Let's see what will happen to Lafayette. Okay, Atchafalaya, Bridge here, Atchafalaya Levee is right here. Everything between the Atchafalaya Levee, including the south part of Lafayette. Lafayette was very tiny at the time. It's all houses now. Everything flooded. The only thing that wasn't about water was the bridges of the ditch. Everything that wasn't water. That flood more likely will overtop the bridges of the ditch. And most likely the entire city of Lafayette will go underwater. If you break on the east side, 1927. Most of Puerto P was underwater, so it went back to Bruce, Riverville. If the lake break in the east, I can tell you right now that the water will reach all the way to the Mississippi Lake, meaning that Dow chemicals intake and all this chemical plants will go in the water. I'm not telling you that Mississippi Lake breaks, I mean, it will tell you what will happen. So, let's see a close up here. So I'm gonna explain to you why that is happening. Okay. So between 1932 and year 2000, 2.5 billion cubic meters of sediment accumulated in the basin. It is not natural. I'm gonna show you something. When you look at the LiDAR, the elevations, see the green right here? When you see that green, this is what you see. That's the elevation compared to this one. So LiDAR will show you the 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot. By the time you see that green, you already have 6 to 8 foot of sediment. This is a picture from 1941, the one I was telling you about. That's the biosorrel field, the upper biosorrel field, the biosorrel right here. Look at that. Thousands of waterways everywhere. This is today. It's pretty much gone. So, why the basin is building? It is man-made. It is not a natural process. So the first thing we need to understand is, why the basin is building it, understand how sand moves. Originally you have a house close to the levee, you have a heavy clay. Meaning there was no sand in the river before this river was. So sand, is something new in the Atchafalaya Basin. So we need to understand how sand moves. Sand is heavier. We have sand is the heaviest, silt and clay is in the values. So sand is very fine sand, move throughout the columns of the water, but it requires current to move. Once the current slows down, it gets. So if you look at a river when it's straight, the most of the current moves in the center of the river, right here. So you get the bulk of the sand moving right in the center of the river. When the river, I'll take a curve, you can see the current will go on the edge of a big curve. That's what the sand is doing. So if I want to bring the sand away from the river into wetlands, what I will do is make a cut at the end of this curve. So I capture the high flowing water full of sand, make it as straight as possible to increase the velocity to suck up the sand, and that's the way I would do it. And that's exactly the way the basin is being designed. It's designed to fit. So this is the Mississippi River, Atchafalaya River right here. That's the power plant. Notice that the big curve of the river, that's how it's capturing the water. Now, before it reaches the power plant, the current slows down. So a lot of the sand is going to deposit right here. See the sandbar forming in there? So what they do, suction breaks that and put it back in the river. In the Atchafalaya River, not in the Mississippi River, in the Atchafalaya River. So all that sand, matter of fact, they have a memorandum of agreement between the power plant and the Corps of Engineers to divert 65% what they call the deadload, the sand into the Atchafalaya River. For you to get an idea, 65% what it means, on average, we get 24 to 25% of the water. So we're supposed to get 30% of the combined flows. So the Red River goes 100% into the Atchafalaya. They take 70% of the water, 30% minus 70% of the Red River water, meaning 24 to 25% of the water. They try to pass 65% of the sand on 24 to 25% of the water. So now, look what they did down below. That's the main channel. The water cannot reach the swamps through the banks of the river. They're too high. Okay, that's my main channel right here. So for the sand to reach the swamps, you gotta go through the lateral channels. Okay, so look at the way the lateral channels are captured with the water. That's I-10, the Atchafalaya River coming from the Whiskey Power Channel. Look at that. Big curve. So you look at the LiDAR of the Atchafalaya Basin, you look at the elevations on the west side, are way bigger than the elevation on the east side. Now you can understand why. You can see it here. East side, west side. See the difference. Okay. Then they went down the river. 1971 or 1970, Bayou Sorrel used to come through here, and here, we back it off for a straight line. Second one. After that, Congress passed resolutions mandated the agencies to manage the basin for crop protection first, water quality for commercial and sport fishermen second. And EPA in 1979 came out with a report. And the report said, you cannot do that any longer. That's the worst thing you ever had done, bridging the lateral channels. Secondly, you cannot introduce real water from the river straight into the swamp with cuts. When you do that, you create deltas. The same way you create land in the Gulf, the same way you create land in here. You don't want to create land in the Atchafalaya Basin. So what the court did, they completely ignored that. 1987. Value chaining. Back it off. Or straight. 1990, 1991. That's what the stream of fishing grounds right here. Grand River. Back it off. Big cord. It was so much, when they did, there was so much sand moving down the stream of fishing grounds. Let's show you a picture here. So that's 1980, I think in 1998, this picture here. And water was starting to get to here. That's the War Canal. That canal goes all the way to I-10. That lake in there, that's sand. That's Tenkan Lake. That's Tenkan Lake today. That's some picture of Tenkan Lake. On top of that, with the water quality in the basin is real bad. Why is so bad? Because all companies came into the Atchafalaya Basin and built canals. Pipeline canals, or oil access canals. All access canals are canals that are built so they can flood the oil rigs to replace oil drilling. When they dug these canals, dig the dirt, they put it on the side, like a levee. There's thousands of miles of levee system through the basin. They call it a spoil bank, the spoil of the region. Water cannot go through dirt. So those canals canalize the water away from the wetlands, some of them. Many of them are blocking water flows. The water don't move, the water becomes stagnant. So water quality is real bad. So that's the excuse for the Corps and the state to do projects to improve water quality. And instead of removing the spoil banks, what they do is introduce river waters through cuts into the swamp. When you do that, you fill everything with sand. So the first one was called, what's the name of the bayou? I forgot the name of the bayou. You remember?
Before Buffalo Cove.
Before Buffalo. Do you remember the name of the bayou? Bayou Eugene, yeah, you got it. Bayou Eugene, yeah. They put sediment traps. They didn't work and create a bunch of weathers. So the second one was Buffalo. Okay, at that point, the commercial fishermen that make a living in the swamp and they want water quality more than anybody else in this planet say, we don't want it, you're gonna fill everything with sand. The opposite point. The Corps and the state move forward, regardless of the position from the fishermen, they come up with a compromise. The Corps say, we're gonna put sediment traps, we're gonna manage them to make sure we stop the sand before it moves into the wetlands. Okay, they put the sediment traps. Within few weeks, no months, weeks, the sediment traps completely filled with sand, they become obsolete. At that point, the water went over, past all the sand over the sediment traps. And when the water went down, LSU had put monitor stations, and almost half of the monitor stations couldn't be reached because of the amount of sand in the system. I'll show you a picture of that. So, with Buffalo Cove, we're moving north toward the cuts. You can see there's water in the swamp. Water disappear. Higher ground. It's a crawfish trap. Another crawfish trap. Use 4-foot trap that is sticking out of the dirt. And look at this closer to the cuts. There's a young wheels. It used to be a deep swamp. Look at the elevations. That's for you to get an idea how high the spills are. 2011 is the last time they opened the Morganza Spillway. That's the water line from the Morganza Spillway. All the land was underwater, it reached all the way to the base of the levee. The sand is right below the water line. So Now, they need to stop there. So after, there's supposed to be the pilot project to learn what to do and what not to do. The court again ignored it completely and got a permit to state to do another thing called the wall value permit. Then part of the permit conditions is that they have to monitor how much sand goes through the system, so they put monitor stations. And when I went down, none of them could be reached. There is no measurements of how much sand actually moved through the system. We end up in there. Now they want to do the easement permit. Why you saw it right here? For the cuts. Things pipeline, cuts, of course the waterway cuts. Now, this is the LiDAR of the same place. See this pipeline canal right here? It's called the Florida gas. See those deltas forming there? That's only from the gaps on the spall map. Look at the delta. Imagine you make cuts to the swamp. You can see all waterways and they fill everything up. So they're gonna make cuts here, here, and here. All the swamps here will fill in this. You can get an idea of how much sand is moving through the system already. Lake Murphy, Lake Sadney. You know that the lake went all the way here in year 2000. You see that here curve, that like an E looking curve. Which is a curve like 3 years ago. So they're gonna let all the sand into this well. Again, I put this picture here because if you look at the curve, the wide side of the curve, that's when the sun is moving. The short side of the curve, that's where the silt is gonna go. You can see it here. So that's a curve right there. I wanna walk in there. See sand, see fine sand. The other side is silt. So that's the way the swamp's supposed to look that day. So the swamps around that lake today. Or by then. Well, what we do now with it, we finally have enough. So we fighting the Israeli project for what 12 years now. We managed to stop it many times. They finally got a permit from the Corps, and we sued the Corps of Engineers challenging this permit. We just went the lawsuit like a month ago, maybe. So the permit is halted. They can reapply for it, or they can actually appeal the ruling. So it's still there. It's not completely dead. It's still. So we didn't want to put all the eggs in one basket, so we sued CPRA as the state on the state. And that right now we're in litigation. And it looks very good because you wanna talk about that? You have a paper? You can see that, tell you. Yeah. So yeah, all yeah, go ahead, whisper it. And whisper from the unbelievable.
So our lawsuit is actually an excellent read, and if anybody wants to, it's on our website, and it kind of reads like a storybook. It explains all the steps along the way. But essentially, CPRA, their lawyers came back and just denied all the claims, and to lay out kind of how ridiculous some of these denials are. So one of our points was filling wetlands and open water areas in the Atchafalaya Basin negatively impacts the health, safety, and welfare of the people of Louisiana by increasing essential flood capacity and eliminating access and vital fishing grounds. So they denied that point, and significance it's a basic principle of hydrology and of science that filling open water areas decreases the flood capacity of those areas. You fill a bathtub with sand, the bathtub cannot hold the same amount of water. This is the same with open water and with wetlands. CPRA is denying this means the agency is going to deny facts and those are true, or is severely lacking the scientific knowledge, as this guy did, which should be required for the agency and which of the state. You want me to go through all of these points?
It's not that many. You want to hear it because it's ridiculous.
Yeah, so another point. Filling canals, lakes, bayous, wetlands, and open water areas is detrimental to flood capacity. These 3 points are similar. So this means that the state's management of the basin, the Atchafalaya Basin, must not promote the filling of wetlands and must avoid the loss of open water areas to all extents possible. Both the loss of wetlands and the conversion of open water areas and wetlands increase flood capacity in the Atchafalaya Basin. All 3 of those points, significance applies to all 3. These next 2 points. The initial version of the East Grand Lake project consisted of 171 elements, but the East Grand Lake project has now been limited to 12 cuts. If allowed to implement the East Grand Lake project, the program will knowingly and intentionally fill open water areas directly going against the recommendations from the ARVRE task force, which the Nature Conservancy has a seat on, urging the program to preserve
And the-
and restore, sorry, that's not that one. Program to preserve and restore open water areas in the basin. So,
There's two different statements, then I agree with them.
yeah. the
And the
con-
one about the 173 cuts, that's copy and paste from the permit application. That's them saying that, it's those saying that, it's still denied.
Yeah, both of these statements are directly from the permit application that CPRA submitted. If CPRA is claiming these statements are not true, that either makes the the permit application is lying about what the project would be, or that CPRA is denying statements that are true. Okay, 3 more points. Basinkeeper and other advocates for the basin provided the program with their opposition viewpoints to the East Grand Lake project, as well as an initial 32-page expert report from Dr. Ivor Bryn-Heerden identifying the flaws in the science being used to support the project. The program has declined to withdraw the East Grand Lake permit application, even though the impacted parishes have formally opposed the project. The program decided to move forward with the East Grand Lake project, ignoring the environmental costs of lost wetlands and lost flood capacity, the economic costs that come with major flood events, and the social cost of moving forward with a project that's unanimously opposed by everyone other than the landowners who would benefit from the conversion of the swamps to bottom pond lakes. Significance of this is that we provided Dr. Ivor Bryn-Heerden's report during the public comment process, and CRA's consultants responded to the report by challenging the science, to which Dr. Ivor Bryn-Heerden responded with another study showing the validity of the science. If CPRA is claiming to not have received these comments, they're blatantly lying, or their consultants worked on their behalf and without their knowledge. Similarly, multiple parishes filed amicus briefs in our federal lawsuit challenging the permit for the East Grand Lake project. So CPRA must have seen the formal opposition from the parishes, which also took the form of 3 parishes formally opposing the project through resolutions. Okay, and the last 4 points. This one was admitted by CPRA in 2024 as part of the public solicitation process for the newest Atchafalaya master plan. CPRA and the program created 3 advisory groups or committees called the Working Group, the Steering Committee, and the Community Group. But denied by CPRA was CPRA and the program have declined to publicly list the membership of these groups, declined to allow the public to attend meetings of the groups, and failed to provide a public notice for any meeting. When addressing what criteria would be used to evaluate project submissions for the 2029 Atchafalaya master plan from the public, CPRA and the program stated that no projects focused on flood protection would be considered for inclusion in the newest Atchafalaya Basin master plan. CPRA when provided the proposals for a project that could utilize sediment from the Atchafalaya Basin to restore coastal land, which we've told you about that, thereby relieving the basin's sedimentation issue while protecting the coast. The agency arbitrarily and capriciously rejected the submissions because they benefited areas outside of the basin. The significance: the CPRA admits to having created these advisory groups. CPRA denies that the membership of these groups has been kept from the public. However, there's no publicly available list of the group's memberships. In fact, at the first solicitation meeting, Basinkeeper asked if they could attend these meetings, see a video after the fact, or be given even a list of the names of those on the groups. CPRA initially said at the meeting that the names would be released, but later went back on the statement claiming privacy concerns. It's blatantly against the open meetings law to not release these names of those on the groups and not allow the public any information about the meetings. CPRA denying these statements as true, surprising because CPRA has provided the public no information that would make these statements possibly false.
That's some example, it's like one thing after the other, like that. So, I think the lawsuit look very good. You know, the another thing that deny, so we originally sued the Atchafalaya Basin program. And CPR said, no, you cannot sue the Atchafalaya Basin program because a program under an agency, you have to sue us, okay, we sue you. Okay, and now they say in the response, they say that Atchafalaya program is actually an agency within an agency. So we went to court in front of the judge to argue that, and now they admitted that, okay, we ain't gonna sue you because you're not an agency, we're gonna sue CPRA. And now they say the opposite. You know, like, they're actually an agency. So anyway, the judge is gonna be very happy with this. So what else we do in our thing? We stopping those projects. We create a management plan for the whole basin. This management plan will be supported by 6 different policies right now. It addresses 3 different things. Restore the hydrology that was altered by the levee systems. Keep the sediment out of the wetlands to maintain the flood capacity. Use the sand from the Atchafalaya Basin and the silt to restore the coast. So we have to survive in Central Louisiana, those 3 things need to be addressed, or else we will have a future in Central Louisiana. First one, to manipulate the levees, remember I told you they cut off every single waterway. Water is low in the summer, have a tropical system, you got 30 inches of rain. The main drainage is right here. The drainage is cut off because we have a levee system. So we are in the wrong side of the levee. The levee is making us flood. You know, so the only way to solve that is reconnect the levee back as close as possible to what it was before, with some kind of lock system or gates that you can open during summer months, close it during the spring floods. Also, we restore the fish migration, crabs, shrimp, you know, all the migrations. People can use it, go back and forth across the levee system, so it will be huge benefit to the ecology and the culture and the people that live on the basin. So that's one of the first part of the proposal. That's a good example. That's all river. That's the Atchafalaya Basin right here. That's the levee right here. You're connected. So that give you an idea. Secondly, we need to keep the sand away from the wetlands. It's very, remember how fast the sediment traps fill? Any kind of sediment traps you're gonna fill very, very quick. So the only way that it's feasible to maintain it, because where you're gonna fill that sand year after year, you know? The only way to do it is to make a sediment trap. There's a river right here, the Whiskey Bay Power Channel. Say this is by soil right here. We make a huge square as well as the current, the sand right here. You suck some dredge it, put it back into the river. You don't need one dredger every year to go along the river. You do each one of them, put it back in the river. So now you have the sand going to where it goes to the main river. Okay. And, oh, by the way, we also proposed to realign. That's, remember Grand River, where it goes today, they fill the lake to minimize the amount of sand that you have to manage. To close it up, open it the way it was before. Do that all throughout the system. Okay. So there's an example right there. Then to move that sand back to the coast where you need it. Okay. So every year they have to spend $44 million to keep the Port Morgan City off. All that sand that don't stay in the swamp goes down to the Port Morgan City. They have to be dredged. So imagine the craziness. The dredging, they spend the money to dredge the sand from that channel that goes to the power plant by the Mississippi River. Instead of putting it on the bank, they can sell it or give it away or whatever. They put it back in the Atchafalaya River to fill wetlands, and then whatever don't fill wetlands have to be re-dredged again, you know, to keep the Port Morgan City off. You know? So let's see. So now that they have different inputs, Grand Lake used to be huge. Now it's full of sand. It's gone. Most of it is gone. So we propose to start mining the sand through a pipeline. So the first area would be dredging Grand Lake. At one point, Grand Lake is dredged wide enough, it's going to become a sediment trap, meaning that the sand won't go into the Port Morgan City anymore. And then right here is Flat Lake. That's silt. Social dredge, pour into the public. Different material. You know, you want to build wetlands on the coast, you need to use silt or clay. Barrier islands, communities, you use sand. So different materials for different things. Another thing you accomplish by doing that, you restore full capacity. You restore full capacity by doing that. Okay. Another thing about this Lake Balloon input, we have another problem. Lake Balloon, Lake Grassy Bay, Lake Barrett is all filled in with clay. You look at the map, area picture, Google map of the area, you see all the cane fields, that's clay. It rains, that clay goes to the bottom. Clay, you don't take a little bit of current to remove the clay system. The problem is, many times there is no current. Sometimes when the water comes very high in the Atchafalaya Basin, the water will back up into Lake Balloon, Lake Barrett, Lake Barrett, all the way to Bayou Beach. That stop all the current will reverse the current. You losing flow capacity outside the levee systems, making even more and more of floods. Okay, so the cheapest way to manage that is to put the clay, when you have a current, you put it back into suspension. Once you put it back into suspension, the current is going to take it for you for free. You get balloon, we can structure dredge it within the pipeline, you will do that. That's possible different corridors using the coastal waterway and the common navigation canal or an existing pipeline corridor. And you can see the distance between this pipeline and different communities that are disappearing. You can put lateral pipelines and different projects to restore each one community along the way. Another thing they're doing, they're spending some of the projects is to restoring barrier islands. It costs $500,000+ per acre to restore a barrier island. The life expectancy can be 20 to 30 years. Something that 20 to 30 years they're expecting ain't gonna be there anymore. How you do that? They make a hole somewhere in here, higher up, make an island. Okay, you still have a hole here. Now you bring new material to be those islands. You have a hurricane, those islands supposed to be like living creatures, they move. We can come, it was in one place, deposit somewhere else. But if you have a new material coming here, distributed by hurricanes, constantly bringing over there to the island, make it sustainable for to actually reduce the cost in a way that we can survive here for future generations. Let's see. That's some of the figures that Keith put together. How much cubic yards of sediment for the next 50 years? That's how much sediment we need. Another thing, there is no other place that we have the kind of material they actually needed to restore the coast. We cannot get it from the Mississippi River. We put a pipeline in the Mississippi River. They did projects from pipelines, but what they do, they dredge one area where the pipeline is, and then they build something, and then there's a hole in there, and then move the pipeline somewhere else, because if that hole fills again, there's no more material in there. It's not like the project that we propose that you can keep mining over and over and over again, wherever you don't have to move the pipeline anymore. So, now you have any questions? Oh, by the way, this is the policy that supported the right now. We have one more to add. Agrarian policy add to those policies. That's all behind the management plan. So right now we're meeting quarterly with the Corps, trying to push this idea. We just have a meeting with the head of CPRA today. Trying to tell them, look, we're easy to work with. Instead of fighting over projects that fill in the basin, we need to understand what's going to happen to Louisiana if the basin can fill it in. We need to maintain the flow capacity we have. And if we all work together toward this, in 1927, when they had a major flood, 1928, the year after, they passed the flood act. By the late 1930s, they built hundreds and hundreds of miles of lake. So we believe it's a national emergency. We can work together with the Corps, state, policies, and the people. We'll tell the president, whoever it is, and Congress, and get the congressional delegation to give up the idea of filling that basin for the landowners, and ask that we need to do something. We lose all the clinical plans. We're going to lose support of South Louisiana. It's not an option not to do anything. I think it can happen. So right now we're trying to work toward that. Do anybody have any questions?
Cost is always a factor. If you were to phase the project plan, where would you start?
Good question. Okay. And because a lot of people ask me that cost benefit. Okay, imagine everything flooded, all those places, Lafayette flooded. It's no matter how much it costs. How much we spend in war, you know, it's like $2 billion per day to bomb Iran, you know, per day. And we have to lose that part of the country. And then I think no matter how much it costs, we're gonna leave. And that's forever. You know, we cannot restore the full capacity of the basin. So we're talking about no one flooding event. It's gonna happen over and over and over. So we can afford whatever it costs, we can afford not to do.
If you want to phase a project like that, let's say over some number of years, where would you start? Which would you start at the? You know, and I mean, there's a whole separate question about the diversion of that sand into the Atchafalaya from the Mississippi. Regulatorily, how that could change, but as long as we're dealing with the sand, where do you start?
I will start from the stopping the sediment to go into the wetlands. Because once the wetlands fill in, the loss of flow capacity is permanent. You cannot restore it again. Matter of fact, EPA said that on the report. We found out the EPA was wrong. We found a way to restore some of it by dredging Grand Lake and but the sand that goes into the wetlands itself, you cannot get it out. So that's invaluable. Whatever flow capacity we have, we have to maintain at all costs. So I will start with that.
So you would be preventing sand, more sands.
Yes, filling the wetlands.
And that's reasonably affordable and can be done pretty much immediately. At least.
Yes.
So would you start at the north and move down?
I want low water, do all these sediment traps. Do it as quick as you can and start from the top and go back to the bottom. I mean, I don't know exactly. We didn't went that far. We try now. We have put that on the books, you know. But maybe start with the more vulnerable areas. And start with those over there. You don't have time to do everything in 1 year. But we can stop with most of the sand from reaching the wetlands, you know. But that would be a study in place. We will determine, you know, what should be a priority.
Because if the levee would break on the east side, like you said, it would take Blackman, you know, the
Chemical plants, air products, synthetic, that chemical, the other one, I forget the name. I mean, it's a whole bunch of them, all the way to Donaldsonville. All those plants.
That's, I think, the best selling.
I'm gonna tell you a secret. You got a kind of flood, the wind is gonna fail. You know where the water is gonna go? To the west. They ain't going, you know, they ain't going to those chemical plants. I'm telling you that right now. So you're gonna get it wrong. It's not the first time that they blow ladies to prevent, you know. Yeah, like Sierra Leone, they go over the floor. Kind of,
Well, they've blown them in the north. They've blown them up in Kansas.
and according to Johnny Marsh, he's in the levy board. He said that's actually the plan. On that,
Is to blow the levees.
on the west.
But didn't they do that? Wasn't there a flood in the north and they knew that if it got to where it was in Louisiana, it was gonna be catastrophic. So they blew levees up north of Missouri or something,
Yeah, they
to
did,
where
but
they flooded cornfields and everything else. And
it wasn't for to protect the Louisiana. It was
well,
protect
that's what they said.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, it was less than 15 years ago.
It was in 1990s. I know they did that. I don't know if 2011 they did it. I don't know. I know in 1990s they did it. But the water barely reached us because in 1990s they had a bigger flood, and most of the water from the Atchafalaya Basin, everything comes to the Atchafalaya Basin and it's all the sea. But anything that floods above Carroll, Illinois, you know, Kansas and all that, you don't come at all, you don't come at all at once. The Mississippi is half the size of Ohio River when they meet. They got the wrong names. They should call the Mississippi the Ohio River. That's a name, meaning you have a vowel So any flood that comes from Arkansas River or anything above it, it trickles into the Mississippi. You don't get a deal. In 1990s, there was one ladies, but the water barely came up in the basin, it trickles to the basin, and we were expecting a big flood. That's how I don't know. And we barely have. The water came up a little bit, but it didn't come that much. More questions? The floor is yours.
MR&T report.
Oh, yes, I forgot that, yeah. Oh, very important. So Dr. Aaron Van Herden have put together an assessment. It's very, very long. 150 some pages. So I don't expect any of you are maybe you will read it. You probably read it already, the whole report. But the report is all on the website. If you go to the website, you go to the tab, Atchafalaya ABK in action, then research. And it comes with a synopsis and conclusions. So if nothing else, you can go and look at the synopsis and conclusions and get an idea of what the report saying. But mainly, it's getting all the data together, the history of the filling of the basin, what happened, why it's filling over time, the things that the Corps have done, the whole, history of sedimentation in the basin. So I really recommend that you read at least the synopsis and the conclusion because it gives you an idea of where we are today and why we are where we are today. Thank you for reminding me. Well, that's it.
So you have any other questions or any other, points of, or any other topic that we can discuss further? Got some time, we left some room for Q&A, so questions.
Again, you can go to the website. Whether the open one is for the Israeli project, you want to learn about that project. The other one is the management plan, so you can find all that on the website. Well, thank you.
Thank you.